Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Joao Felix to Benfica is getting pretty close. We also have some player updates regarding Mike Penders, Aaron Anselmino, Carney Chukwuemeka, Mamadou Sarr and Eze. And not only that, but Chelsea look to start negotiations with Jorrel Hato and Xavi Simons. Now, of course, I've given my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k before the end of 2025. Kicking things off, Record Portugal have reported that Benfica are preparing for a final push for Joao Felix's signing. The Reds already have a preliminary agreement in place with the forward and are closer to reaching an agreement with Chelsea, with a view of acquiring half of his transfer fee. Now, we spoke about Joao Felix on this channel a lot recently because obviously he's been linked with Benfica in this move, and I've given my opinion on it. I feel like it's a smart move. Right. Now, some of you guys have said in the comments that Benfica tried to stiffen us when it comes to Enzo Fernandez, and we shouldn't really kind of have any leeway going backwards. And look, I hear you. I really do. But the way I see it is, Chelsea want to offload Joao Felix. We acquired him last summer because he was a make weight in a deal for PSR. We now want to, offload him this summer. Benfica seems to be the destination that Joao Felix wants to go. He's turned down Porto, he's turned down Flamengo, and they're not going to have the sort of money that Chelsea would be looking for ideally. However, with Benfica, there is an emotional connection from the player side of things. Benfica obviously want the player back, maybe for an emotional side of things as well, as like a reunion, or maybe because they just value him as a player. They made a lot of money on him when they first sold him. I believe it was to Atletico Madrid, well over 100 million euros, which is wild at the time. If Chelsea can get him off the books without taking up a loan spot, which we'll speak about later on in this video, if they can offload him for half the price and add on some sort of sell-on clause, then I think that is really good business. Because can you see Joao Felix at the age of 25 staying at Benfica for the rest of his career? The way that his career's gone, I don't. I see him bouncing around Europe again. Now, will he stay there for a few years? More than likely. If he really wants this move and it is more of a boyhood club, emotional side of things, he's probably going to stick it out for a long time of his contract, whatever that may be. But if Chelsea can get around 20 million euros, 25 million euros for him, and the rest on a sell-on fee, then it's not money right now, but we'll get money in the future when Benfica inevitably sell him. Because if he finds form, rediscovers form at Benfica, which he more than likely will, his value then goes through the roof again. Benfica can then cash in him for a second time. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but it wouldn't be strange if it did, right? It wouldn't be a weird scenario. If Benfica can get him, 20 to 25 million euros off of Chelsea, we have a sell-on clause. He then recovers his form, sold for massive money. Benfica win again, and Chelsea then recoup whatever that percentage is that they put on, whether it's a 50%, 25%, 30%, whatever it may be. I think if Chelsea put a sell-on clause in there, this could be a very good deal for both the players and the club. Joao Felix wants to move, Chelsea want rid, Benfica want the player. And look, we know that a lot of clubs around Europe aren't willing to pay what we paid for Joao Felix last season now because of how his season went, where he played okay in a Chelsea shirt, don't get me wrong. He had a lot of time in the Conference League where obviously he was a step above in terms of the opposition, and it's no disrespect to them. But skill-wise, he just was, along with a lot of the Chelsea players. And he went out on loan to AC Milan, where he started well with a goal, finished well with a goal, but the in-between spell wasn't that great, and even AC Milan were like, we don't really want to keep you after the summer loan. So what do? Do we just bring him back, give him another chance at Chelsea when it's very clear that Enzo Maresca doesn't want him as part of his plans? Not in a horrible way, I just don't think he's the right profile, and we've got the likes of Nkunku and João Pedro now who can play similar roles where they're not quite a 9, not quite a 10, but they can play in myriad of positions. Exception to João Pedro there, because he definitely looks like a 9, which is incredible. So I think this makes a lot of sense. If Chelsea slap in a sell-on fee and we take a reduced sort of upfront fee, I'd be more than happy with that personally. But I would love to know your thoughts and opinions regarding this sort of transfer saga of Joao Felix to Benfica. Do you think this is a good move for Benfica, a good move for Joao Felix? Do you think that Chelsea could do well out of this deal by taking some money up front and putting a sell-on clause in the contract? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Chelsea are loaning Mamadou Sarr back to Strasbourg. Here we go. Now, to be honest, I didn't actually see this coming. I'm going to be brutally honest, I didn't see this come at all. Purely because he was part of the Club World Cup squad. Obviously, we purchased him from Strasbourg only a month ago. I think it was around 15 million euros, I believe. So he's technically a Chelsea player, not a Strasbourg player. And we've loaned him back. Now, I understand the loan back because you're going to loan him back to Strasbourg for a development season like we have done with the likes of André Santos and Petrovic last season. But I don't think that the plan with Sarr is to sell him for a higher fee. Again, could be wrong. No one can predict what these directors are going to do, because we didn't think that was going to be the case for Petrovic, and lo and behold, we've sold him for a profit. But with Mamadou Sarr, it seems to be a little different, purely because he went to the Club World Cup, was part of that squad, played a few minutes, looked very sharp, looked very good. And not only that, but internally, everyone was raving about how good he was for his age. How, he has such a very good defensive IQ. He's strong, he's quick, he's good on the ball. There was a reason why Chelsea went and got him straight away. One of the key signings type of thing. Maybe not to be a massive improvement instantly of the Chelsea squad, but someone that definitely has a very bright future. So, that he walks in and gets game time at Strasbourg because he was one of their best centre-backs last season, if not their best centre-back last season. So he gets guaranteed game time. So in terms of him and his environment, it doesn't really unsettle it, because he's a Chelsea player going back to Strasbourg where he's familiar playing and playing well for another season. And I'm sure he's going to appreciate the consistent game time to then develop his game. But for Chelsea's perspective, it takes up a loan spot, but he's one of our players officially, and we can recall him at any point as and when needed. So I think this is a really smart move. It did seem a bit strange that we're going to buy a player from one club, then loan him back to the same club 4 weeks later, rather than doing it instantly like a lot of transfers go. But I think that Chelsea and Maresca wanted to see how good he was in that Club World Cup squad, being away, being part of that first team. And the reports were raving. So I think this is a very good move from all parties. Sarr gets some consistent game time in a familiar environment. Strasbourg had a very good season last season, so he'll obviously want to be going back and wanted to push them even further, because he's left them on a high, if that makes sense. He can now return there for another season and see how his development goes and see how far he can push Strasbourg, along with the rest of the squad as well. They're doing incredible bits over there. So I think this is a good move, but I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Did you think that Mamadou Sarr was going to stay part of Chelsea's first team? Because initially, I actually thought he might be part of Chelsea's first team. Maybe someone who gets minutes in the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup lower rounds, or in rotation in the Premier League as and when needed. But did you think that he was going to do that, or be loaned out straight away? And do you think that the plan for Mamadou Sarr is to sell him for profit, or to keep an eye on him for a development season, bring him into this Chelsea team, and then obviously see how his career goes? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Fabrizio Romano has reported that all formal steps are completed for Mike Penders to leave Chelsea on loan and join Strasbourg. And up next, Kendry Páez. Now again, another player going to Strasbourg. Now this one again makes a lot of sense to me. We've ripped out Santos and Petrovic from Strasbourg last season. Petrovic was their player of the season. He had an exceptional development season. And obviously Chelsea have now sold him for profit. Sold him to Bournemouth for £25 million. So I know that we don't have to do this. This is probably how we are thinking as a club, is we've taken Santos and Petrovic back, and then we've given them Sarr. And they're like, well, we took their best goalkeeper last season. We've got Mike Penders, who's got an incredible ceiling, very technically gifted as a goalkeeper, but he is still very young. Let's loan Mike Penders back to Ligue 1. I think he was at Genk last season on loan. So it's a big step up in terms of leagues for him. He can then get a consistent run of games in Strasbourg. Again, a development season. Obviously, we know the long-term plan for Mike Penders is for him to be Chelsea #1 in years to come, because of his high potential and how good he is already at the age that he is. So again, I think this is a very good step. It does take up another loan spot. We are going to talk about that in just a second, because I did do some research, thanks to you guys, that you can only have 6 loans in and out at any given time. So it's very interesting to see what Chelsea's plan are, and it will kind of make a bit more sense as we go through this video. But I think the Mike Penders to Strasbourg is a very good move, very smart move for Penders himself and for Chelsea. We have a sister club. We might as well utilise them. And again, if he can go on and develop and become Strasbourg's player of the season next season, then we just know we've got a very good sort of running thing going with Strasbourg. So if they're bringing out the best of our young players and they develop him, Chelsea then have the pick. I don't think Penders is going to be sold for profit. I think there's been so much said about him in and out for the last couple of seasons that he is one for the long term. But again, I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions. Did you think that Mike Penders would be the third choice goalkeeper this season, like going into this season, with Sanchez and Jorgensen as 1 and 2? Or did you expect a loan move for Penders a long way off? Because to be honest, I originally thought he would be part of that 3 going into next season's squad. However, there's been a lot of rumours, a lot of murmurs, a lot of whispers that Penders was going to go out on loan. And with Petrovic being sold, I actually thought, that strengthens Penders' position to stay in that Chelsea first team. But if he can get consistent game time in Ligue 1, which is a big step up from the Belgium League, I believe, and that's no disrespect to the Belgium League, but from a player's perspective, that's a big step up. I think this is a really good move. So let me know your thoughts down below. Fabrizio Romano also reported that Chelsea are assessing different loan options for Aaron Anselmino. He will not be joining Strasbourg. Now, I find this quite interesting because it makes sense for a lot of our players to go to Strasbourg. It's like an easy route, right, for both clubs. We can kind of offload our players that need to develop to Strasbourg. We can then bring them back when needed. And for Strasbourg, they're getting this sort of consistent run of high potential, very high talented young players coming into their squad to then be developed, and it strengthens their squad around their core, right? So I think this works very well, and over the long period of time, we're going to see this become more and more of a success. Quite surprised that Anselmino is not going to Strasbourg, though, and they are assessing different loan options. Whether or not they see him at a different skill level, whether they just see him needing to play in a different league in terms of physicality or pace of the game, who knows? But I just found this very, very interesting. Obviously, you've got Penders, Kendry Paez, all being lined up to go to Strasbourg. Sarr has just gone back there, but Anselmino isn't. So it'll be very interesting to see where he does go. Again, he is a player that has a lot of sort of media attention. Buying him from Boca Juniors, very young player, played very well there. We've barely seen him play in a Chelsea shirt. He may have got a handful of minutes here and there across the season, right? But we've not really seen him. Everyone speaks so highly of him. He trains very well. But again, he's going to go out on loan. So he'll definitely be one to watch. I feel like Anselmino is also another player that isn't bought in mind of selling for a profit currently. But again, I'm happy to be proven wrong, and I probably will be proven wrong at some point. But for the way that the club are talking about him, the way they speak about him in the media, he doesn't seem to be a player that they flip for a profit. Very much like Andre Santos and Kendry Paez. So we found these gems. We want to nurture them and develop them because they're going to be a key part of our Chelsea future in the first team. So I feel like Anselmino is another player like that. But again, I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Anselmino. Where do you think he will end up? And Bluecoat Extra tweeted this out. Its latest: Chelsea 3 loan deals to Strasbourg, loan deals for 25-26. Aaron Anselmino to Strasbourg is off. Mamadou Sarr is done. Penders is basically done now. And Kendry Paez is up next. And having this listed like this gives it a different perspective because, like I mentioned earlier in the video, you can only have 6 loans overall. There's 6 loan spots. And that's 4 already. So we only have 2 left. Now, when it comes to the likes of Joao Felix, when it comes to the likes of Sterling, when it comes to the likes of Carney Chukwuemeka, you can understand why Chelsea are so keen to offload them on a permanent basis, because I don't think we have the space to loan all these players out. We are trying to offload players with Uga Chukwu as well, looking for a permanent as well, not to forget him. Chelsea have got all of these players that are surplus to requirements. Now, for the likes of Sterling, it's going to be difficult to offload him because of his wages. He has 2 years left on his contract. I think it works out to about £30 million. So we just need to offload him, right? If we can get £30 million for him, it's basically us cutting even over the amortization, etc., or at least just saving £30 million in wages over 2 years. So we basically break even on that. We're not looking to make money, but offload his massive wages because it hasn't worked out for him here at Chelsea, unfortunately. But then you've got the likes of Carney Chukwuemeka. He isn't really going to break into the first team. So it makes sense for him to kind of move away from Stamford Bridge, which is a sad thing to say, really, because he's a very talented player. But having another loan, that's the 5th loan spot. He takes that 5th loan spot, and I don't think Chelsea want to do that. He was at Dortmund last season. We're going to talk about Carney in just a second, but he was at Dortmund last season, played a lot of games. They're very interested in him. They've had the try before you buy. So now it's kind of like, make your mind up, or he goes somewhere else. So you've got that option. He could then be the 5th spot, but then you're kind of taking that spot away from the current Chelsea team where Chelsea are really focusing on developing youngsters to be part of that first team squad. It's very obvious that Felix, Chukwuemeka, Uga Chukwu, Sterling, Ben Chilwell, etc. are not part of the plans. So they're not going to fill up all these loan spots with players that aren't part of the future. So it makes a lot of sense as to why they're doing this. And I was, thank you to you guys for letting me know in the comments, because I was completely unaware there was a cap on how many loan players you could have out. But from 24-25, it's a number of 6 in total of incomings and outgoings. And I didn't know that. So with 4 of them occupied with youngsters that Chelsea are looking to have improve for the Chelsea first team in many years to come, of Anselmino, Sarr, Penders and Paez, we're very interested to see what happens with the last 2 spots. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you think of Chelsea are going to do with these last 2 spots? Will you see a loan for Carney Chukwuemeka, Raheem Sterling, Ben Chilwell, and Uga Chukwu? Or do you feel like it will actually go to young players who are looking to develop their career, who have a Chelsea future to come back to. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Fabrizio Romano also reported that Chelsea are closing doors to a loan exit for Carney Chukwuemeka and want a permanent move. He continues by saying Chelsea are currently only open to a permanent exit for Carney Chukwuemeka. Borussia Dortmund have been in talks over a loan in recent weeks, but Chelsea have not given the green light to a move. Now, I just mentioned this in the last part of the video. It's very obvious that Chukwuemeka is not part of our plans, which is sad, because we wanted him to do well at Chelsea, but realistically, looking at our squad, I don't see a way that he breaks in. Now, obviously, Chelsea looking to offload on a permanent, but Borussia Dortmund have had a pay before, try before you buy. They've had a try before you buy. Do you want him or do you not? Because I think Chelsea are in this position now where it's like, you buy him permanently or we just don't offer him to someone else. Now, I think Dortmund will go for the permanent move. The other sort of stumbling block, I believe, will be his release clause. We had this last season. Chelsea were like, if you want him, 40 million. 40 million, you can have him. I don't know whether it was euros or pounds. I can't quite remember. I think it was euros. I think it was pounds, but I think we offered the 40 million euros, which is a bit of a currency difference. Makes it a bit cheaper in terms of what we would receive from Dortmund. But around 40 million. That's his release clause. Do you want him? And they said, no, we can't really afford that. Okay, so you can have him on loan. We didn't put an obligation to buy in there. You just said, look, we'll have him on loan and we'll reassess this next year. We've given you over 50 million for Gittins. No doubt they're going to make some other outgoings this summer. We've literally paid for you to take Carney off us. We've given you over 50 million. Just give us 40 of that back. Job's a good one. Do you know what I mean? Everyone wins. But it'd be very interesting to see what happens. Will he end up at Dortmund? Will he be shopped around to other clubs? I don't really see a way back for him in a Chelsea shirt. So it'd just be interesting to see if Dortmund are willing to stump up the cash. Because I believe that they will have the money for it. I just don't think they want to pay the 40 million, which baffles me. It really does, because it always seems like the English clubs are sort of isolated in terms of we have our asking prices for players, but the rest of Europe, and sometimes the rest of the world, are like, yeah, we're not going to pay that though. And so I don't understand, because when we go to their clubs and say, right, we want your player, they go, well, here's the asking price. And we go, well, we don't want to pay that though. And they go, all right, fine, don't worry about it then. We just won't sell. And I feel like when English clubs do that, it's not the same energy, right? Now, I understand that certain leagues generate more revenue than others. I understand that, right? I know that there are economics around it. The Italians, for example, they don't generate nowhere near as much money, which is why they want to sell high and buy cheap. I get it. And that's good business to do so. But I feel like it's getting a bit frustrating for a fan who's not really an accountant fan, but someone who takes interest, someone who's always reacting to headlines and sharing it with you guys and talking to you guys every day. I'm kind of like, if we have an asking price, yeah, I get negotiations, obviously, between higher or lower, I get it, but not massively undercutting yourselves for the sake of offloading a player, because it makes no sense. And the only people that win are the club that's buying the player for a massively reduced price. So I don't see Chelsea moving too much from that 40 million. They might reduce it a little bit, but I don't see them going, oh yeah, all right, you can have him for 20 just for the sake of it. But if Dortmund don't actually buy him on a permanent, then Chelsea then have a new issue of, okay, cool, we now need to offload Carney to a different club who's going to be willing to pay the 40 million. Now, I feel like he'd do very well in the Premier League. I feel like a Premier League club would come in and snap him up if Dortmund don't take him. And I feel like Carney Chukwuemeka is going to only do nothing but improve. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. So like I said, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you feel like Dortmund will stump up the 40 million to get Carney Chukwuemeka? Or do you feel like Chelsea are going to have another issue of trying to sell him to another club while we are sort of going through these loan deals, trying to buy it and sort our own squad out while having these other players that we're trying to offload? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Simon Phillips has reported that Chelsea want 2 defensive reinforcements, a replacement for Cucurella and a central defender. Ashington could fill the gap at fullback, but the club reassessed Jorrel Hato last week and negotiations could progress at any moment. This is what we want to hear. I also saw some reports that were very quickly deleted that Chelsea were very close to a verbal agreement of around £40 million. And we spoke about Hato recently on this channel. Ajax were asking for around 60 million. Chelsea were hoping for around 40 million. There has been some reports suggesting that it can be done for around 40 million, which is very, very good. It means obviously when we go to the negotiations, which looks like it's going to happen very, very soon, that Chelsea could get their man for a little bit less. Now, Hato would be a perfect signing. He's 19, very smart defensively, got very good footballing brain. He can defend in wide areas, he can defend central areas. He covers a myriad of positions that we can have rotation and cover for, whether it's cover for Cucurella or cover in that centre-back position as the season goes across. I think there'll be plenty of game time for him across the season. Because if we're being honest, as much as I love Cucurella and everyone loves Cucurella, I don't want him to play nearly as many games as he has this season, because he's had to this season, because there's no reinforcements for him. And we shouldn't just try and burn him out over a couple of seasons because he's really, really good. You have to manage his minutes, right? Now, I like that it says that Achampong could fill the gap at fullback, but the club reassessed. Now, I totally agree that Achampong is a fantastic player who can play left back, can play right back, play centre back, plays DM. You tell him where to play, he will play it to a very high level. I think Achampong is also going to get a lot of minutes this season across the campaigns that we're going to be playing, right? But I'm glad that the club have gone, Achampong can do a job there. We should probably go get someone who's better suited to it naturally, right? Which is a Jorrel Hato. He could play centre-back, play left-back. Chelsea get this deal done for £40 million. Oh, what a signing. This would be incredible. Even if we went to £50 million, that wouldn't bother me. I'm not really overly fussed on the money that we spend, overall, realistically, because it's not my money, and I get that. And a lot of you guys vent your frustrations about the sort of the money side of things. And I totally get it. It's just to have a conversation, right? If we can get it down for 40 million, in my opinion, that's an absolute steal for a 19-year-old who's got international experience, who plays at a high level of football, who plays very consistently. And mate, honestly, he would be a fantastic signing. So I'm hoping that Chelsea can start negotiations very soon. I can see that happening very, very soon. And we can get him snapped up for around £40 million. I think it would be an absolute steal. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down below about Jorrel Hato and Achampong playing left back. Do you see a world where Achampong plays left back to kind of compensate for Cucurella, or do Chelsea go and get Jorrel Hato for around £40 million and he plays left back and centre back? Who else other than Jorrel Hato would you go for that can play those both positions? Let me know your thoughts down below. S. Johnson Sport has also reported that Chelsea have spoken with Eze's agents, but he wants a big salary, which surprised them. Chelsea learned that his release clause must be paid in a single payment. Interest remains, but any move by Chelsea to sign Eze now seems unlikely. Now, we could see this coming a mile off in terms of it being unlikely due to one factor. The one factor is his age. He is 27 years old. He does not fit into Chelsea's current project plans, 25 and under. When you look at the other players in his position we've been linked with Morgan Rogers and Xavi Simons, the one big difference is, well, actually a couple of differences. One would be the price. They're fairly similar, but the major difference, Xavi Simons and Morgan Rogers are 5 years younger. 5 years younger. And that is the big thing for me. I don't think the wage, the big salary, maybe it surprised them because they thought, oh, okay, cool, we weren't expecting you to ask for that much. But I don't think it surprised them in a sense that they can't pay it. Eze is coming into his prime of his career at 27 years old. He had such a good season last season. He would be a wonder signing, he really would, because he's so Prem proven. Now, big salary for him, you're talking at what, 150k plus a week, which I think he thoroughly deserves because of what a player he is and what a season he's just had. And like I said, he's coming into his prime. He's looking for that big pay contract, 5-year deal sort of thing to see him over into his 30s as he starts to wind down. Not saying he's going to end his career early 30s because players do play a lot longer, but you understand the concept, right? The one thing I do think tripped Chelsea up a little bit is learning that his release clause must be paid in a single payment. It is very rare that clubs pay the entire transfer fee at once. They have installments over years, whether it's 20% up front, 50% up front, 70% up front, whatever it may be. It's never usually, in today's football and the way that money's generated, it's never usually 100% at once. It used to be, but it's not anymore. And you can go as far back as when Ronaldo went to Real Madrid. Real Madrid signed Ronaldo from United, and they paid that in installments of like 20 million a year. So even that, back then, it was a massive fee, big transfer. Even then was done over installments over a number of years. So I think at Chelsea thinking £65 million all at once, maybe not. So they are very interested in Eze, and I don't think, obviously the salary surprised them in the sense of we didn't think you were going to ask for that much, but I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it would be an issue if you're going to sign a player like Eze because you know exactly what you're getting. But I think the mixture of it makes them go, we really like him, but I don't think we can go for him this summer. Which, to be honest, there's a couple of factors to suggest that we wouldn't. But it's very exciting to be linked with a player like that and knowing that Chelsea are big admirers of Eze because he would make a very big impact into Chelsea's squad. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you think is the biggest factor of him not coming to Chelsea or Chelsea not pursuing him this summer? Is it his age? Is it the whole release clause in one go? Is it his weekly wage? Is it a myriad of all of them together? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. And Fabrizio Romano also reported new movements are expected with Xavi Simons. The situation is expected to develop soon. Price can be under £60 million with talks to follow soon. Chelsea and Arsenal are aware of the situation, are both very interested. Bayern remains also keen. This is exciting times. We've spoke about Xavi Simons on the channel recently because of all the links, and obviously we've been speaking about Morgan Rogers and Eze, these three players mainly because they can all play similar positions, whether it's the 10, out on the left-hand side, the right-hand side, wherever they need to be. Perfect Enzo Maresca style players to fit in his system. And we need some rotation for Cole. Yes, Esteval is going to play minutes centrally, but I think he's primarily going to play a lot of his minutes on the right-hand side this season until he develops a bit more and, embeds himself into the Premier League. On the left-hand side, we've got Gittins. Pedro Neto can obviously play right and left, which does help. And we also got Joao Pedro, who could play as a 9, 10, and on the left. But I feel like that one extra player that is a bit of a Swiss Army knife player will just be the icing on the cake, because we don't really know what's going on with Nkunku. He may be sold. We may keep him. Either way, to be linked with Xavi Simons is amazing. Xavi Simons is a player that gets you on the edge of his seat. He's a guy that plays with passion. He's a guy that will track back and defend more than he attacks if need be. He wants the ball. He wants to drive the ball forward. He's got flair like Joao Pedro in the way that he links up with players. He is incredible. Now, when we were first linked, my first thought was, how much is he going to cost? In today's market, everyone's going for wild money. Morgan Rogers would be unbelievable signing because he's Prem proven, etc. Young age, can do all the things I mentioned with Xavi Simons. Maybe not as good defensively as someone like Xavi Simons, but again, still a very, very good player. Works well with Cole Palmer. They're like best friends off the pitch, and he was part of the Man City Academy. So yes, it makes a lot of sense. £80 million for Morgan Rogers seems a bit too much for me. If I'm being brutally honest, I think £80 million is wild for someone who is going to be a rotation player or someone who's not going to be playing every single game, like without fail. Right? I just think that's a lot of money. And yes, the market dictates the prices. Aston Villa don't want to sell him, but they've got PSR issues. So I understand that they're going to slap as much money on top as a premium as possible. And hey, game is the game, right? Now, Chelsea are long-term admirers of Morgan Rogers. £80 million is a lot of money. Xavi Simons, it came out the other day that when we reported it here on the channel, that Leipzig wanted more than the £43 million that they, or 41 or £43 million that they paid in the winter. There was then talks of it being £56 million that can get the deal done. Now we're seeing from Fabrizio saying the price can be under 60 million. Now, if you're telling me that you've got two very similar players and one's a little bit better defensively, yes, he's not Prem proven, and a lot of people are saying like, we don't need to buy Bundesliga players because we've had a bad history of them. And I understand that, I really do. But I feel like Xavi Simons is the type of player that can definitely grow and adapt. He's very physical for his frame as well. So is Morgan Rogers. That is also very true. But I think for £56 million or anything under 60 or 60 and under is a very, very good saving for a very similar style player who, yes, it doesn't come from the City Academy, and yes, he isn't Prem proven, but I would take him. He's an exciting player. He plays with passion. I just think he's an unbelievable player. It's very difficult for me personally, and a lot of you guys as well telling me in the comments, it's hard to separate Morgan Rogers and Xavi Simons because they're very similar players. They're both very exciting to watch as well, and they both had very, very good seasons last season. Xavi Simons picked up a little bit of an injury last season, and he seems to have come back from that, which is very good. And he played less games than Morgan Rogers, I believe, as well. So I would go and save the 20 million and go get Xavi Simons personally. You are taking more of a risk because he's a Bundesliga player who isn't Prem proven. I understand that, but that's just what I would do. And I feel like talks are going to start this week for both Jorrel Hato and Xavi Simons. The reports are leading to suggest that this week's going to be a big week for the talks and negotiations, which is very exciting for us Chelsea fans, because if you're telling me that we're going to sign a player that can play left back and left back and centre back, and another 10 that can play 10 right wing, left wing, we are laughing. But I would love to know what you guys think regarding Xavi Simons. Would you prefer him to Morgan Rogers and take that risk of a Bundesliga player with no Prem experience coming across, but by saving yourself £20+ million? Or would you pay the premium, go get Morgan Rogers and have someone who's Prem proven? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding this, because I think it's very interesting. If Chelsea can end up with either Xavi Simons or Morgan Rogers, I will be laughing. I think that's an incredible move for business from Chelsea. Does also put question marks and a bit of pressure on Nkunku if we keep him or sell him. And I'm just curious to know you guys what you think. Do you feel like this is going to really progress this week with Hato and Simons, with negotiations on the verge of starting, or pretty much starting now? Very curious to know your thoughts. And that's all the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one. And I mean that, you're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.